Jeremiah? There we go. Okay, let's start again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Before we begin today, I want to introduce our two musicians who have never been with us before, and it's my great pleasure to introduce cellist Marsha Irwin. She's principal, yes, give her a hand, yes. Principal cello at the Fox Theater. She regularly plays for the Bach Society of St. Louis Winter Opera, and Union Avenue Opera. She also performs with the Muni Theater, Fox Theater Orchestra, Winter Opera, and the Rep. Peabody Opera House, I can hardly say it all, orchestra, and with chamber music and choral groups everywhere. So thank you. We're honored to have you with us. And likewise, pianist Dr. Cathy Benton is professor of music at Missouri, Missouri Baptist University, right? Okay. She currently is the choir accompanist and handbell director at Central Presbyterian Church and the interim director of the Gateway Ringers. So welcome to both of you. Let's give them another big hand. Thank you. Thank you both for that beautiful beginning to our service. We so appreciate your being with us today. And so I also would like to just welcome everyone, whether you're here in the sanctuary or whether you're out in the world. We know you had many choices for this moment in time, and we are so pleased that you decided to spend this time with us. I just want to say that we hope that every single one of you just receive something special and unique from this service, whatever it is your soul needs, and we know that you are bringing something especially unique and wonderful just by your very presence. I would like to welcome any of our first-time guests. We are just so happy to see you this morning. If you would be willing to grab a welcome packet out by the door on the table, there's a little card in there, which is a guest information card, and if you are willing to fill one out, we would love to send you a yearly subscription complimentary to the Daily Word magazine. We don't harass our guests in any way, but we would love to give you a gift for being here today. Also, just some gratitude, Jeremiah Bircher in the sound and visual booth up there, who's amazing. Jeremiah came to us at exactly the right time, and we appreciate him greatly. Also, thanks to today's prayer chaplains, Hope Dodson and Mary Tuminello, who along with all the other prayer chaplains have held spiritual space with us through some difficult times and will continue to do so. So thanks for all of you. And also we want to thank our prayer circle led by Pam Seeger. You all also have just helped us with our prayer consciousness, which is amazing. I have a few just brief announcements. One is our licensed Unity teacher, and Hartupee, and ministerial candidate, I should say, is facilitating a book discussion at 9 a.m. for a couple more weeks, and you can join anytime. You don't have to register at all, just come at 9 a.m. It is held in our adult classroom. There is a Zoom opportunity, and that's the only reason you might need to register if you want to do it by Zoom. So I neglected to announce this last week, and better late than never, right? I wanted to thank everyone who helped make our annual meeting such a success, and that would include our amazing hospitality ministry led by Ruth Emnett and Larry Lambert in the back there. Also all of our board members who took part and helped us with it, and it was just a great event. And also I want to thank all of you who signed up to join our many ministries, and Sarah has all the spreadsheets now typed, so we're going to get them out to the ministry chairs this week, and you can be contacting your ministry. So it was just a great kickoff to our ministry, so thank you for that. Mark your calendars for Unity World Day of Prayer, September 9th. The prayer chaplains will, as usual, hold the sanctuary open throughout the day, and there will be a silent Unity prayer service. It's about a 10-minute service on the hour all day long from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. And we'll be getting more information about that soon. I hope you all remember our new fun and fundraiser coming up on September 19th at Andre's on Telegraph Road. It begins at 5 p.m. Flyers will be in the lobby, and tickets are available after service. Ruth, are you in charge today? See Ruth in the purple blouse there? And they're $50 each, which includes a buffet dinner, open bar, and a mystery dinner theater show. So it's really a good deal for all of that. Invite your family and friends. Tables can be reserved for either 8 or 10 people, or you can just come and find a place where you'd like to sit. So I just have one other brief, kind of unusual announcement so everybody knows what's going on, and that is after service, if you don't have an immediate commitment, if you could remain in your seats for just a few moments. We are wanting to improve our sound in terms of the live streaming. We would like to be able to have the microphone set so that the streamers, all of you streamers, can not only hear the song leader, but everybody in the room. And so we're going to just do a little test right after service. So if you can stay, it's going to be on the song Weave, and we'll have the words on the board. Okay? Are we good, Jeremiah, on that? Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the cause, gotten anything? Well, that's a miracle in and of itself, is it? It's good, it's good. Yay, okay. So today's message is entitled, It's Up to You. And at this time, I would like to invite Hope Dodson to read the daily word and lead us in prayer. Hope? Morning.
Is this working? So today's word is protected. Before I get into that, I want to say thank you to everyone here, and that I'm Hope Dodson, and together service. We'll be on either side of the sanctuary for any prayer needs you may have, or if there's anyone in your life you'd just like to bless with prayer, something like that. And as always, all prayers are kept in strictest confidence. So I will say the affirmation, and then we'll say it together. Through my oneness with God, I feel protected. Together.
Through my oneness with God, I feel protected.
Sometimes I may feel at the mercy of a changing, tumultuous world I cannot control. This is never true. Even though the chaos of the world may swirl around me, at the center of my being is a place of perfect peace and calm. Whenever I am in need of a safe refuge, I turn to God within to reach this place of tranquility and reclaim my feeling of security and protection. The sun always rises after the longest, darkest night. I remind myself of this truth and feel grateful as I allow the light of spiritual understanding to release and reclaim whatever power I may have unwittingly given to a fear-based thought. Fully in tune with the divine presence within me, I move safely and confidently through every challenging circumstance. And from 1 John 4, verse 4, the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. And let's take a moment to pray as we center ourselves in that Christ presence within, that presence that is within each one of us, that protective presence that just radiates love, intelligence, and power, that protects us. And we are so grateful as we release this prayer and say, thank you, God. Amen. And if you're willing and able to stand for our hymn, it will be Work Wonders from Within. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So many of you probably have heard the story of Siddhartha Gautama, better known as the Buddha, who after 45 days of contemplation came out back into the world, and at some point, and by that time he was enlightened, at some point I should say, the townspeople gathered and they said to him, "Who are you? Are you a god?" And the Buddha said, "No." "Are you a man?" And the Buddha said, "No." "Are you an angel?" And the Buddha shook his head, "No." They were puzzled and confused, and they said, "Well, if you're not a man, and you're not a god, and you're not an angel, who are you?" And he said, say it with me if you know it, "I am awake. I am awake." So right now we are in the middle of a series about a wonderful book called This Life is Yours, Discover Your Power, Claim Your Wholeness, and Heal Your Life, by authors Reverend Linda Martello Whitsitt and her daughter Alicia. And this book is all about awakening. It's about awakening to our innate wholeness. They actually define healing, first of all, as the intentional, continual practice of choosing to live fully in every single circumstance, claiming your innate wholeness. And wholeness is defined as the real, absolute you, with nothing broken or missing. We may sometimes think there's something broken and missing about us, but truly there is not. And so today we're going to really explore part of a chapter, and the chapter includes 2 ways we can really awaken to our wholeness. And the first one is assert your power. Have you ever heard anyone, or maybe you yourself, have uttered comments like this? I can't help myself. This doesn't feel right, but my best friend says it's my only option. I wish I were courageous enough to tell him or her I disagree. This is a dangerous world. My condition is incurable. I should take better care of myself, but my family needs me. The Whitsits tell us, if you've ever thought or uttered statements such as these, you have felt the sting of powerlessness based on just trying in our human skins to survive. They say, in order to survive, and we talked about this last week, we need health, well-being, and self-determination. And we also need community. We need our tribe. We need one another. But here's the question, okay? Have you ever encountered a time in your life where it seemed like your needs clashed with the needs of others? Has anybody ever had that happen? Anybody who hasn't had that happen? If so, I think you better come up here and talk, okay? Yeah, it happens. It really does. And the authors say when we constantly sacrifice our needs in favor of others, we can become paralyzed and feel powerless. Our feelings of powerlessness sometimes stem from personal circumstances, and sometimes, as today's daily word so beautifully put it, it stems from a generalized anxiety about the world today and all that's going on in it. Actually, this week I was in a doctor's office, and I heard one woman say to her companion, "This world is in a big mess. And the worst thing is, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it." And I think in our human skins, we do feel that way sometimes. It might help us to know that our feelings of powerlessness may not be ours alone, but part of what we call that collective consciousness. And I would call it a collective consciousness of fear. But here's the good news. Here's the really good news. Powerlessness of any kind is not the truth of your being. Every single human being is an individualized expression of God with all the powers of the Christ. Absolutely no exceptions. So it's up to you whether or not you take in that fear and negativity of the world, whether you take it into your mindset. Jesus told us, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall" what? Set you free. Absolutely. With all due respect to Jesus, author Flannery O'Connell added an intriguing twist, which many of you also know. It is, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you odd." True, and some of us have found out that being odd is not necessarily a bad thing, because it enables us to look away from the world and look at it with different eyes. So Emmett Fox wrote, "Life is consciousness. We define consciousness as a sense of awareness, awakening, knowing. We understand that thoughts have creative power to really shape our lives. We always say thoughts held in mind produce after their own kind." Now, this doesn't mean, a lot of people misunderstand this doesn't mean that every single thought that flashes in our mind manifests in the outer. Thank goodness, right? I wouldn't want some of my thoughts sometimes to manifest. I'm sure you feel the same way. Unity Reverend Paul Hesselback writes, "Thoughts reproduce their own kind 100% of the time in our consciousness, in our minds, in our awareness. And like everything in the entire universe, we operate in a field of energy. When we hold joyful thoughts and feelings, we vibrate and build a consciousness of joy. When we focus on fear, we are likely to just see that fear grow and evolve and create a chain reaction. Then we find more and more things in our world, to become afraid of. It just snowballs. So a really good example of this is about a man named Jack who was driving along a country road one time late at night, and he had a flat tire. Well, the first thing that popped in his head was just beating himself up. He thought, oh, I should have put the spare back in the trunk. I should have, have my cell phone all ready to go, powered up, and none of those things are right. So he got out of the car, and way ahead of him in the middle of the woods, he saw kind of a dim light. So he started walking toward it, and he walked for quite a distance, and he realized there was a cabin there. It was a cabin. So the longer that he walked, his thoughts were kind of churning in his mind because he was upset, and he thought, well, I wonder who lives in that cabin. It just seems like whoever would live out here in the middle of nowhere with by no people, must be something weird about him. Maybe he's violent. Maybe he's an escaped convict. Maybe when I ring the doorbell or knock on the door, he's going to just really be angry and harm me. So by the time he reached the door with all these thoughts in his head, he knocked loudly on the door. A very sleepy-looking man opened the door, and Jack punched him in the nose and ran. So the point is, I really don't think that Jack accomplished much by that act, right? He didn't help himself in any way. But sometimes in our human skins, we do build a case up against people and circumstances in advance. And then once we get that seed idea in our minds, we tend to nurse, rehearse, and curse our mind creations. They seem real to us. And as we expand, however, as we expand our awareness, wake up, and claim our powers, we make different choices with more positive outcomes. Again, it's up to you. It's up to every single one of us. Many metaphysicians advocate that on this journey to Christ awareness, we absolutely need to understand about some stages that we go through, 4 of them, to help us discern our orientation to the world. And some of you will remember these. We haven't talked about them for a while. The first one is victim consciousness. Does this sound familiar? In this case, I believe that something outside of myself controls my destiny. Now, that controlling agent might be God. Some believe it's the devil. It might be parents, DNA, unseen cosmic forces, or being born in the wrong place in the wrong time. The point is, in this mindset, I perceive things happening to me. And like Jack, I am sure that people and events are out to get me. I tell myself, the world is against me, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, guess I'll go eat worms, right? Here I wallow in a sea of self-pity, wasting energy whining, complaining, blaming, recycling old grievances. And if we're honest, all of us have probably been there at one point or another in our lives. Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith says, people at this stage always point their fingers outward. They never point their fingers inward. It's not my fault. It's his fault, her fault, their fault, its fault. I'm just the victim. Seeing ourselves as victims, we actually attract ourselves to people and circumstances that reinforce our victimhood. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, a mindset of powerlessness. Victim consciousness, because we think we can't, keeps us from growing and evolving. And therefore we don't try new things. It's that rut, that rut. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. The good news is, once we understand victim consciousness, it becomes easier for us to change our thinking and find self-empowerment. Okay? So the next stage is usually called, has different names, but many call it victor consciousness. This is by me awareness. Now this is a higher level than victim consciousness because at least here I realize I have some personal power over events in my life. For example, believing I might manifest a parking spot or beat somebody in a golf game. In such victories, however, I have discovered the power of mind, but it's all from my personality. It's all from my ego. For there to be a victor, there has to be a what? Absolutely, there has to be a victim. And so, in a way, it's still tied to victim consciousness. When we truly embrace our divine power and wholeness, we will find there's absolutely no need for us to be victors over other human beings. So the next stage is called vessel consciousness. This is a big leap. This is when I realize that there is something greater in me. In this stage, I might, in the words of Eric Butterworth, view the Christ within as a raisin in a bagel. A tiny little piece of me, a tiny little piece of who I am. Years ago, when I first found unity, this was expressed as human beings having a spark of divinity within. Now, I realize that a spark lights a fire, so I'm sure that was the thought behind it, but really knowing that God expresses fully at every single point in the universe, it has to be more than a spark. And today, what is called Unity Principle number 2, it's worded differently. It says, human beings are divine at their core and therefore inherently good. Divine at the core means our very essence is power. And at this level, I see myself as an expression of God. And although this is, as I said, a giant leap, Paul Hesselbeck says this is certainly a huge spiritual leap, step, but it's not quite oneness. He gives the example that sound is an expression, an effect of playing the piano, but it's not exactly the piano itself, is it? So there is still that sense of separation. However, in the fourth step, we let that separation go. This is called Verity Consciousness. It's when I realize the divine as me. The word verity means a principle of irrefutable, enduring truth. This is the stage of Christ consciousness and awakening to oneness. Oneness is one of our core values. Jesus said, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Michael Beckwith calls this stage being consciousness. I like that, being consciousness. He says it's ironic that when describing the most advanced of the stages, there's the least to say. And the reason is this is a stage of consciousness that absolutely cannot be defined by human language. It's a feeling, it's a knowing, it's a deepening. So the line between stages 3 and 4 is thin, and yet it's extraordinary. In stage 4, Spirit as me, Reverend Beckwith says, this is the living fire of oneness, and it consumes any residue of separation. God and I are one. Will you say that with me? God and I are one. That is that truth, verity, consciousness. Now the thing is, we move back and forth through these stages, up and down you might say, sometimes moment by moment. If we find ourselves at one of the lower levels, we don't need to beat ourselves up, because guess what? That's victim consciousness when we beat ourselves up. But we also don't want to build a condo and stay there, right? Forever. We have to be aware of it. So knowing, just knowing that we could be living from any one of these stages at any time helps us to control our minds and assert our power. Eric Butterworth wrote, it is an important moment in your life when you discover the great truth that things may happen around you, things may happen to you, but the only things that really matter are things that happen where? Yeah, within you, absolutely. Our response, our reaction, our consciousness. So obviously now we have very little control over other people's behavior. I'm sure you might have noticed that, right? We're going to talk more about that next week. However, we can always decide not to let any other person take away our joy, our power, or our peace. It's too precious to give away. In other words, we can affirm like Mahatma Gandhi, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. A good thing to remember. So the second practice we're going to talk about today is also a matter of consciousness. It is celebrate your prosperity. When we hear people say things like, oh, there's too little time, I can't afford it, or there isn't enough, these statements reveal, our authors say, a belief in scarcity. This mindset always says never enough, not enough money, food, clothing, fun, fill in the blank. Not enough of whatever it is you really want. And The authors say the basis for this belief is that assumption that there are always winners and losers. Think victims and victors, right? And that there's only so much room at the top, and if someone else succeeds, then that means there won't be any room left for us. And if you think about it, that attitude really does permeate a lot of our group consciousness. So here's the question. The question is, how can we shift our consciousness from scarcity to abundance? And I know we work on that a lot in Unity, and there certainly are many ways, but philosophers and theologians through the ages agree on one particular method, and that is to practice giving and receiving. The universe operates through dynamic exchange, and according to Deepak Chopra, nothing is static, nothing stays the same, because your body, your mind, the universe are constant and dynamic exchanges. To stop the circulation of energy is like stopping the flow of blood, and that doesn't go well, does it? This is why you must give and receive always. In our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the universe, the abundance of the universe circulating and coming toward us and us coming toward it. Now the Whitsitt say, once you understand this, you will realize that for anything you perceive to be lacking, it doesn't matter what it is, affection, friendships, possessions, money, or time, you are in fact actually hoarding this particular thing because you're keeping it close to yourself every single time, they say. And the remedy is to give what you think you lack. Now, several years ago, I remember taking a class at First Unity. I think Reverend Sharon Almond was facilitating it. And we were discussing this whole concept of giving and receiving and giving what you lack. And one of the participants in the class said something that I'll never forget. She said, I'm setting the intention. She had her consciousness was that she never had enough time. Does anybody think that? Yes, I do sometimes. And so she said, here's what I'm going to do. She said, I'm going to give of my time. She said, I'm going to start volunteering 2 nights a week at a community center near my house. Now, the backstory of her is this. She operated single-handedly a very successful business, which she had started. She had teenagers at home, and she was very active in this church. And despite all of that, she gave of her time to a new source. And abundance did. She shared that it really worked for her. And I was really impressed. I've never forgotten that. So the author's right. Want more friends? Become a good friend. Want more stuff? Clean out the stuff you have, right? All those things that you have at home that you don't use anymore, donate them, get rid of them. Want more money? They say give to your church or a charitable cause. Or simply pay for somebody's coffee behind you in the drive-up lane. And we know that Francis of Assisi said, and this is based on something Jesus said, he said, as you give, so you will receive. And there's one other thing about this giving and receiving issue that we don't always talk about, and that is no one can ever give unless there is a receiver, right? It has to be a receiver in order for you to give. So Dennis Merritt Jones, in the book The Art of Abundance, which we studied a couple years ago, some of you will remember it, he says that being an open and willing receiver is just as important as being a cheerful giver. This reminds me of my dear mom, and Bob will attest to this, who really was a great giver. She loved to buy gifts. She bought Christmas gifts and birthday gifts and, anniversary gifts for her entire family. And she was just really loved to do that. However, she was not such a great receiver. In fact, she would always say, oh, don't spend your hard-earned money on me. And in her final days, when she was in home care hospice, she literally, and this is God's truth, had a drawer where she had all of these pre-packaged, pre-wrapped gifts. Yours truly was the gift wrapper and the purchaser. And she kept them in the drawer so that when people came to visit her, and she had lots of visitors in those days, she would have something to reciprocate with. That was her. It was kind of, she couldn't just be the receiver. She just had to give. So I always told her, Mom, it's a gift to receive. But I'm not sure that ever really happened on this earth, but at any rate. So the Whitsits say, generously and lavishly giving of our time, talents, and treasures, and receiving graciously and gratefully helps us awaken to our wholeness and experience greater peace, health, prosperity in every single aspect of our lives. So, asserting our power and spiritual authority, every single one of us can be that voice of truth, even if the whole world sees it differently. Acting from spiritual power, we never say, I can't, we never say, I lack. Instead, we affirm, I am whole, and we ask ourselves, what can I give to improve this situation? In a consciousness of wholeness, power, and abundance, we celebrate and contribute to a world awakened to infinite possibilities. It's up to you, and so it is. And so now we're going to just take a few moments to prepare for prayer and meditation. And as we do so, we're going to affirm the great truth about our God. And so if you will say this with me together and just feel the fact that there are unity churches all over the world right now saying this particular affirmation. Together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and at work in my life. God, the good, omnipotent, and so it is.
Secret meeting place, love is there. In the silence, where every color blends and every rainbow ends, good is there. In the light, now you find that you know peace of mind. In the silence, your path is paved in gold, and all your dreams unfold. Love is there. Peace is there. Truth is there. God is there.
And so now I invite you to close your outer eyes if you have not already done so and it's comfortable. Just take a deep breath. And as you inhale, allow the breath of God to breathe in you, as you. And as you exhale, just let go. Let go of any thought, belief, or self-perception that is blocking your good. Let go of any thoughts of not enough, and know the truth. God is, and all is well. God is pure love, life, power, wisdom, strength, and good. How infinite and divine and perfect is the Spirit that indwells you now and always. There is no separation. You are created in the image and likeness of Spirit, and all the powers of the Christ are your divine inheritance. All you have to do, like the Buddha, is to open your heart and awaken to your own power. As Jesus said, God and I are one. God and I are one, no separation, only pure, unconditional love, power, and peace with every breath. So in this consciousness today, I invite you to take into your heart and soul the Whitsit's affirmations about power and prosperity. First of all, power. When I feel paralyzed by powerlessness, may I remember that spiritual power is natural to me. May I attune to spiritual power in the atmosphere around me, internalizing it with every beat of my heart. May the rhythm of my own heart be the drum of power fortifying me, egging me on. May I dance to the beat, feel powerful in my body, and may the words flowing from my lips be as respectful as they are true. And the affirmation for prosperity. My eyes that can perceive lack and limitation are also able to see plenty and possibility. I bravely and boldly know that I am divine, fully able to prosper by looking for reasons to celebrate. I appreciate all the good that I can see. I choose to live in assurance of ever-flowing, never-depleting abundance. May I know that all the good I desire is right where I am in my next breath. By the power of plenty, I peacefully and passionately pursue my dreams. Let there be plenty for me to give in a spirit of generosity. Let me receive graciously and gratefully. All that flows from me and to me is a gift and a blessing. And so now, for just a few moments in the silence, before we come back together, let's just take any area in your mind, in your heart, that you feel needs healing, power, or prosperity, and just know and in the silence claim that it is already true. Do this for a few moments in the silence. And now, whether you're in this sanctuary or out into the world, we are so grateful to come together as a spiritual community. We are so grateful for one another and for our many gifts. We set the intention this day to live from our power and to be open and receptive to God's goodness. And so it is, and so we joyously allow it to be. In the name and through the power of the Christ, we know this is so. So it is. Amen. Thank you, Cathy and Marsha, for your amazing music today. We appreciate you greatly, and we're going to have one more song from them at the end. So now it's a time in our service where we just come together, pause, reflect, and give thanks for our many blessings. We so appreciate your continued financial support, as well as all of your good wishes, notes of encouragement, and your prayers. And so whether you're a longtime member of First Unity or whether you are joining us for the very first time, you are important to our spiritual community, and we appreciate you being with us today. We know and affirm that we are one with Divine Source and with one another. So please join me in blessing our many gifts together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And at this time, I would like to ask everyone who is willing and able to stand to sing I See Abundance Everywhere. And I want to thank our song leader today, Ann Hartupee. Thank you. So once again, thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you next week as we continue to explore other ways that we can absolutely claim and live from our wholeness. We appreciate all of you who are liking us on Facebook and sharing our posts, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on Instagram. In oneness, please know that we are holding all of you in the sacred space of love, light, peace, and wholeness. And so now I would like to invite everyone to join me in saying the expanded version of our prayer for protection. If you'd like to stand, feels kind of good. Or you can stand or you can choose, okay? Stand or sit. But all right, are we ready? Together. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. The presence indwells us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so our service will end today with a musical closing by Marsha, and we hope after you will stay and sing one more song for us. Are we still going to do that, Jeremiah? Yes? After that, we will hope you'll all come down for coffee and conversation and refreshments, okay? So you may be seated for now.